Hi everyone, it's me, B. I hope you're all good. So there's been this really fantastic hashtag going around recently called hashtag Council of Seven, and it's been created by the lovely Natalia. Hi Natalia, I've been really loving your YouTube content. So what Natalia is suggesting is that how if we viewed tarot decks as counsellors to advise us about our internal self, what tarot decks would we select? So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you the decks that I have selected for my Council of Seven. See you in a minute. Bye. Okay, so I've turned the camera around and I'm going to show you my 7 decks in no particular order. So the first deck in my Council of Seven for inner self would have to be the Albino weight kind of tarot deck. So backs of the cards, and I'll just show you a few of these cards. So the reason why I've chosen this deck is because the Rider-Waite-Smith system was a system that I actually learnt to read tarot on, and it's kind of like my foundation system. It's something that I'm very familiar with. It's my structure in tarot, and what I like about this deck is that each of the suits are kind of structured. So if I move to the suits, so for example, these are the wands. They tend to be like kind of orangey sort of colours. The cups are kind of like a turquoisey, bluey sort of colour, and the swords are kind of like a kind of greeny, kind of orangey colour, and the pentacles have green in them. So I kind of guess that you know, I need foundation and structure to function in my life. You know, I like things to be just so. I like to forward plan. I don't like surprises and stuff like that. And I tend to turn to this deck if I just want a straight kind of quick answer, because it's just something that I'm familiar with. It's something that I learnt tarot on, and it's just structured. So this is my first council deck for my inner self. Okay, so the second deck is the new Era Elements Tarot deck, and I haven't always got on with this deck, to be quite honest, but I tend to use it for inner child work. You know, because for me, inner child work is a vital component. It kind of reconnects to parts of ourself that are wounded, you know, the inner child within. So when I first saw this deck advertised on pre-order, I really liked some of the images, but then there was one card that kind of really threw me back, and it was this card here, the Devil card. It just kind of put me off the whole deck. But when I kind of reflected on this card, I think it brought back an incident to me that happened to me as a child. So once I worked on that issue, because that issue, I've kind of parked it in my psyche. So once I worked on that issue, I was able to kind of connect to this deck. So because of that, I tend to use this deck, you know, just for inner child kind of shadow work. You know, it's a very controversial deck. Look at some of the images on there. Okay, so this is my new Era Elements Tarot. So the next deck on my inner council list would have to be this one. It's the Herbal Tarot, and I tend to use this deck for kind of like just like health readings on myself. It's Rider-Waite kind of inspired, but what I like about it is that it's got a herb connected to each archetype, and even though it came with a little white book, I did actually buy this book, which is the guidebook to work with it, because it kind of gives you the spiritual properties, the medicinal properties, and the dose preparation for each kind of herb, and it kind of connects it to the archetype. So this is my counsel for kind of health. Okay, so the third deck in my counsel would have to be this one. Oops, sorry for the glare, folks. This one here is Wangs Crystal Clear Major Akana. So it's kind of like a, I wouldn't say a gimmicky version, these are the backs, but it's kind of like a radical version of the Rider-Waite-Smith. So, for example, the Empress, it's got here, Hot Bitch, the Emperor, Daddy Issues, the Pope, anti-capitalist. I tend to use this deck if I just want a quick fun reading for myself. It kind of gives me the giggles and it kind of perks me up. So if I've got like a major issue but it's not too strong, I'll use this deck for a 3-card spread. This is Hermit, I Need Time Alone. It's just fun and structured, or my kind of structure. Okay, so the next deck in my Council of 7 would have to be this one here. It's the Children's Tarot by Julianne Victoria, and this is a new deck in my collection, and I actually bought it to teach my granddaughters tarot. But as I've been kind of working with it, I actually find it's quite a good memory booster, because it gives you kind of like very simple kind of alternatives for the meanings of the cards. You know, as I'm getting older, my brain's kind of not as sharp as it used to be, and if I'm having one of those days, for me this is just the kind of like a good memory booster for tarot, mainly for study. I tend to use this as a study guide, really, because it's just another way of looking at the cards, and it gives simple yet effective kind of meanings to the cards. Okie dokie, so another deck in my Council of 7 would be this one here. It's I'll show you the box for this one. It's the Everyday Enchantment Tarot by Poppy Palin. Backs of the cards. And what I like about this deck is that it's kind of like comfortable. It's like a familiar kind of deck for me. It kind of reminds me of the 1970s London that I grew up in. It's comfortable and it's familiar, and also I can really see the kind of stories in the cards. I mean, look at this house. It's and you know, this fence. It's very kind of like London. You know, this kind of card here reminds me of going to my GP, the old-fashioned GPs or doctors. You know, this reminds me of buskers in the kind of underground station, Green in Common, or demonstrations. You know, it's British Police or the Met Police. You know, this reminds me of tower blocks. Growing up, I had friends that lived in tower blocks. You know, just the bay windows and the fencing. And so because this deck is so familiar to me, I can really kind of like see the stories in the actual cards. This man here reminds me of my dad. You know, this reminds me of backstreet alleys growing up. This reminds me when I was doing swimming lessons at school. So this deck is just familiar, and because of that I can really kind of read the stories in the deck, in the cards, sorry. And my final deck would have to be this one, oops, which is the Modern Witch Tarot. Oops, daisy, sorry for the glare, folks. This one here. So I tend to keep it in this bag. So let's open it up and show you a few cards. Oops, daisy. So what I like about this deck is that it's got the structure of the albino Rider-Waite system. But at the same time, it also gives me a look at the world from a younger perspective. So I tend to like use this deck. I want a modern perspective on the world because it's got the same structure as my albino Waite tarot deck, but at the same time it's got like a modern twist, and it just gives you modern. Well, for me, the stories in this deck give me more modern interpretations of the cards. And another deck that I would have included in this, but it had a similar kind of feel to the Poppy Palin deck, would be my Afro Goddess tarot deck. I'll just show you a few cards from this deck. So it comes in this gorgeous box. If I just put these cards aside and show you. So it's the Afro Goddess Akana, and it's by Audria Ferntick. And like Poppy Palin, it's just got a familiarity. Look at the backs and stuff and the edging. It's just, again, it's a Rider-Waite Smith inspired deck, but the stories in this deck are really clear. It's a melanated deck, but for some reason, whenever I look into the cards, I really see the story behind it. And I tend to use this deck and the Poppy Palin deck for really in-depth, kind of like complicated readings, because I can really see the stories in these particular cards. So that's my Council of 7. Thank you, Natalia, for putting on this interesting hashtag, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.